to another lesson of the Logos and Letters. My name is Liam. We're going to continue on with that lesson on colours, really. Surprising thing to say in a course on logic and Attic Greek too. Hosa menun ton toyu ton symptomaton apotinon pathon duskeneton kai paronomenon. So clearly from the outset he just wants to get started on speaking about symptomaton again. Things that are revealing about a situation. They can be circumstantial, of course, especially in the Greek sense of the word. Symptomaton has a lot to do etymologically with the idea of falling on. So it's actually quite related to the word accident in Latin, accidere. So interesting to keep that in mind. So it offers a little bit of versatility in translation, whether you want to go with the modern idea, which often is the correct, a correct way of translating it, or do you want to go with the more philosophical and logical translation of something that falls upon and happens to coincide and whatnot? Well, depending on the context on what he's saying, I will translate it differently. But let's continue. Apo dinon pathon. So from some particular emotions, affections that are being felt, whatever they might be, like even just simply heat or cold, right? Katapsukis, thermotes. But not just any. Now he's speaking about what? Duskeneton. That word should be quite familiar to some of you who have been following all the lessons. Duskeneton, like difficult to move. Kai paramonimon, right? So enduring, lasting. Okay, so he's not just talking about any old affections. He's talking about ones that are difficult to dislodge and lasting. Alefthe is related to hypsoles, right? Alefthe means like he has assumed, or it has assumed, or taken up. And te archein is like, oh God, that's got so many translations, like the principal, the chief, the primary, the former. Principal in both ways, actually. It can mean principal in both ways, like PAL or PLE. So in this sentence, he's now speaking about those difficult to dislodge and long-lasting passions and affections. And if you take up the principle of them, let's just continue and the idea will be complete. Pathetikai poe poiotetes legontai. Right? Now they are said to be affective qualities. Can anyone who is listening or watching this lesson, can anyone think right now, before I give it away, what this has a symmetry with? This idea has a symmetry with. We've seen in our logic education before, right? When something that is short term can become something that is long term. It wasn't too long ago that we looked at it. If you've got it, awesome, fantastic. If you don't, that's okay. Depending on the time of day and your energy and your sleep, you just might be a bit tired or whatever. However, this has exact symmetry with dispositions and habits, hexais and diathesis, right? So interesting to note this, that some can start off as just a simple pathos, right, an affection, but then because they become long-lasting or enduring, the cause of them, right, the principle of them, right, they can turn into and become and be spoken of as pathetikai poiotetes. So they can become effective qualities, and there's nothing that really prevents them from that. We're going to look at some situations of it. So you don't have to distinguish them. They're either this or that. They can be this or that at different times, of course, but across time, through the passage of time, they can become more properly said as the other. So let's see what his examples are. So ite right? This can mean a few different things, but notice this, ready? Ite or aite, right? Aite. This means whether or. So whether this or that, okay? Whether X or Y. Ite, right? So ite or aite, up to you. Different times in Greek pronounce that differently. Aitagarente katafusin sustasai okrotes e melania gegenetai, right? To have become. So okrotes, so literally ochreness or paleness or blackness. So is composed in the body, in the physical, in the nature, okay, in the nature of that person or thing, okay. It doesn't have to just be a human being. We don't want to be too like anthropocentric. What's that word? I've never had to say that word, but I know what the word is in my head. Anyway, so the whiteness and the blackness is constructed in that body, right? Consider that. So let's imagine it's paleness from dread, complete dread, existential dread, right? Comes about, and they can be said as qualities, just simple qualities. Boiotetes, right? They're in this genus, right? Correct. They're qualities. They're in this supreme genus. Boioigar kata. So what sortish qualifiers? Gar kata tautas legometha. So we say that they are qualifiers of something. Do we know? Legometha. That's why they're qualities in the first place. They qualify someone. So for a short term or a long term. So if you're pale and you're standing in a group of people, I can point you out by saying, oh, look at the pale person over there. They look completely frightened of something. Or if someone's blushing, okay, standing in a group of people, they can be pointed out by saying, hey, look at that blushing person over there, right? So they qualify you in a way. They say what sortish. Those are just some examples. Or whether, or dia no son macran, right? Through long disease, right? A dia calma, or even things like burns, calma. Toao totuto sum bebe ken okrotes e melania, right? So we can get this same accident of paleness or blackness, right? So someone who's really sick for a long time, even someone who's had the flu for like ages, right? Or some disease like that, they can become quite pale in complexion. So that can be just like the sort of accident that they've got going on there. Kaime radios apo kathistantai, right? So it's not easily done to have them return to their previous state. Apo kathistantai, to return things, or it's like think of it in passive sense of like to be returned to the previous state, or more literally, to return something to how it stood. You know, in English, how people say, people might say, you know, but how did it stand before this? Well, I'll tell you how it stood, right? So, you know what I mean? That's apo katistantai, right? So it's like returning the state to how it was before. Not easily done. So if someone's terribly ill for a long time, it's not easily done to just restore them to the same state and have that healthy glow and complexion. Is that not the truth? So like, or if someone's terribly stressed, which is like a disease in a way, dia no son macran, right? Stressed about money, stressed about their romance, you know, both those things will stress a person out. Maybe both at the same time. It is not easily done to return that man or woman or whoever it might be back to their, you know, healthy complexion and their, or just their normal state, right? He, so either or. I don't think I translated this as either because I didn't know this one was here too. So either or. Kaidia biu paramenusi. These things will endure throughout life. Boyo tetes kai autai legontai. So they are qualities, of course. Boyo tetes kai hautai. We speak of them as qualities. Why? Because they tell us what sortish. They qualify you. Homoyusgar boyo kata tautas legometha. Alright, so in such a way, in similar way, we speak of them as qualifiers, right? Okay, so all these things are things that can qualify you, right? So in later lessons, when we're forming syllogisms and whatnot, we can definitely qualify someone by these temporary things or these long-lasting things. Okay, where were we? Here. Hossa dapo radios de alumenon. Kai taku apo. Look at this. Look at the length of this word. Apokathistamenon. Killed it. Taku apokathistamenon genetai. Right. So pathe legetai. Notice this. Watch this. Watch this maneuvering that he's doing. This logical maneuvering. It's excellent. Oh, I can choose more colors. I'm gonna choose this one. Right. Thank you, sir. How do I get rid of that? Thank you. All right. So, radios de alumenon is easily dissolved, right? If easily separated, easily loosed, right? So, and quickly returned to the same state, or quickly becoming what it was before. That those things that easily like dissolved and fixed and remedied, they are just a simple pathe, right? We looked at that word pathe ages ago. Looked at pathos more recently, but in the feminine, we haven't seen that in a while. Ligate poyo tetes, right? So these things are quickly remedied, just pathe, just affection, just passion, okay? And these are qualities, right? Poyo tetes deu, right? So they're in the genus of the supreme genus of quality, but notice this word legetai. This is the key here. This is what you want to pay attention to. So all this you want to call, right? You want it to be spoken of as an affection. You don't want to just call it a quality. All right, you don't want to just call it a quality. There are many reasons for that. I'm going to just say one of them, probably the more important one, which is helpful to clarify. Why would you want to call this these colors, these specific colors like ochrotes and pale and whatever, like if someone's black from frostbite, okay, why do you want to call that a you don't want to call that a quality? You want to call that something else, because it's very, very specific and related to a state in the body. Hasn't he been going on about fusin, sustantai, fusin? Yeah, he keeps going on about this. It's composed in the body, right? Like it's a reaction to something that's going on, and we call them this color to reflect that. So you shouldn't just call it a quality that they've got, because that takes information away from the person we're speaking to or the person we're writing to. Takes information away from ourselves. We might overlook the severity of what that color really means. Okay, so if you're ascending up a high summit and you notice that your fingers are taking on a particular blackness that they haven't had before, you might want to tell your climbing guide or your climbing partner, hey, the accident of my fingers is changing. One of the accidents. And they go, oh, what's that? And you go, oh, the quality of them. And the person just shrugs their shoulders. I don't want to hear about the quality of your fingers. But if you say, there's a different affection, they might say, what is it? And you go, it's a high degree of blackness in my fingers than was there before. And they will know through that obtuse and strange language that you have early onset frostbite. Right, that's serious. So that's one reason. It sticks close to the meaning and significance, and that is what I just expounded upon just then is a principle that you should carry with you in all logic. Okay, sticking close to the truth and the meaning as much as you can to help communication and help your listener or your reader understand you as much as possible. Okay, that's just good, as the English say, good cricket, right? Radios dialuminon. So he's shown a great similarity between disposition and habits, and affective qualities and affections. I know that's a lot to take in. But hopefully you can see that similarity and you can distinguish between the two. Let's finish off down here, shall we? So utegar ho eruthrion, right? It literally means the blusher or the blushing one. Utegar ho eruthrion diato eskun thenai, through the shame, the state of being shameful. Eruthrias legatai. So we don't call the blushing person the blusher. Right? Like, not unless they blush all the time, or there's some character. If they're in a state of shame and they blush, they're not spoken of as the blusher. The state of being afraid, okrias, right? So we don't call them the pale one because they were pale from the fear that time. Okay? Alamalon, peponthenati. But better, what's preferable, malon, is that they're just suffering something. They're just undergoing some affection, okay? This transitory state, almost like a diathesis, right? This disposition, okay? We'll leave it there. We've covered so much. We've talked about so much. There is quite a few different pieces. Lots of new Greek words. I don't know if anyone else has noticed that. I certainly have. Not new, but they are rarer, and they're not really on the forefront of your mind the whole time. So that's been fun. Take that away. And I think one of the reasons why he goes on about not calling them by these affections is related to chapter 1, the third sentence, when it's speaking about paronyms and how we form them from qualities. And he does mention that we're not going to call them, that we shouldn't call them qualities. So I think he's really interested in preventing people from forming paronyms about things that are very transitory, ephemeral, if you will. So if that's what he was going at, I think he'd be happy that I've picked up on that. If not, that's just a happy bonus that I've picked up on here, because it wouldn't be proper to call people, form a paronym of someone of such a ephemeral thing. Why? If you want a clarification, why? Because as soon as that person leaves that state, which is quite a state that's easy to leave because it's just a disposition or a affection, the paronym's useless. It won't refer to them anymore. Okay, so if you go, oh look, I saw the blusher, right? And who's the blusher? Oh, that person who's blushing, right? That name is going to quickly expire. That's going to expire like milk in the sun, right? So quite possibly the philosopher was concerned about that and trying to ensure that people don't start doing that. So on that note, I'll leave it there. Thank you as always for listening. My name is Liam. Si semper fortis in opere tuo, and I'll see you next time.